Everybody, welcome. This is episode now 35 of my Architecture Vogue podcast, which is the Property People podcast. Today, I am joined by Lindsay Mattinson, who is a practicing director, founder, practicing architect and founding director of Mattinson Associates, who are based on the Isle of Wight, lovely area to be. Lindsay also is the co-founder of Pulse, which is something, as the conversation goes on, I look forward to hearing more about. But Lindsay, welcome. If we talk first of all about you as an individual, your history and the practice, and then we can move on to Pulse, and you can tell the audience about that as the conversation goes on. If you want to tell us about who you are, please, and where you've come from, basically.
Yeah, hi Nick. Thanks very much for having me on your show. I'm a practicing architect, and I've been in the industry for over 30 years now. I suppose about 300 plus buildings under my belt globally, worldwide. I've worked across 3 different continents, from practices that are huge, where big commercial buildings are the sort of main feed, right the way through to much smaller boutique practices. And then obviously doing buildings under those different practices, the buildings have been ranging from big commercial buildings for blue chip clients, some going as big as 35,000 square meters, reaching entire city blocks, for big companies like BP, Shell, Castrol, so very high tech commercial buildings, right the way through to really small boutique, pretty little gems of buildings. So I've really looked at the industry both from a very large perspective right the way down to a small perspective, across different continents in the world. And as a result of all of that experience that I've gained over the years, about 20 years ago, I set up my own practice, starting off with smaller scale, but still staying within the commercial sector, blue chip companies. But then with actually deciding to have a family, that type of lifestyle and work ethic wasn't really in tune with having children. So I decided to change the focus of the business, my practice, from the commercial to more residential. But in doing that, I did something that was slightly different, and something that makes me different in the residential sector is that I use my commercial experience as the fundamental to the way that I think and the way that I design and the way that I come up with solutions for small scale buildings. So it makes me slightly different from those that have come from the residential experience and residential portfolios to just doing residential. So I have a slightly different twist on things and look at things slightly differently, I would say, as a result of that. But Mattinson Associates has been going now for 20 plus years. And we design lovely buildings for lots of different types of clients. They tend to be quite high net worth individuals that are looking for either beautiful holiday homes or a beautiful house to live in or a beautiful house to retire to. But that's what we do in a nutshell.
And you're based on the Isle of Wight. Do you cover the south of the UK, or are you Isle of Wight based only, or what's your? Yeah.
No, so we have a presence in London, but most of our team are based here on the Isle of Wight. That doesn't stop us from working anywhere. We work all over, and we work all over the world at the moment. We've got, actually, funny enough, got a job in Zimbabwe that we're busy with. Which is a residential job up there. But yes, we do work all the way up north. We're actually doing some fantastic work up at Croxton Abbey at the moment, working on an ancient monument with a listed building inside of it, and producing new architecture to go in and around it. So we do really exciting stuff, and it's not just new builds that are big and contemporary. We get involved in the nitty gritty of historic buildings, and being able to place new architecture within a historic context, which is never an easy thing to do. But it's something that we actually find that the more constraints that we have, the better the solutions, and the more we can change the environment so that it shows and tells a story through history of buildings and their setting within their context. So yeah, we'll work work anywhere, but a lot of our portfolio is based on the Isle of Wight. Yeah.
And so your work that comes from up north of the UK, as you said, does that come from word of mouth then, from you being in the industry for a few decades, or how do you tend to win work that's further afield?
I suppose it's strategic advertising alongside word of mouth. I think that you're only ever as good as your last job. I mean, I've lived by that motto,
of course,
all the way through practice. I think that if you do a good job for your client, you answer the brief and give them more than they were expecting, which luckily for us has been the case on all of our projects. That they then will talk about us. They will then refer us on. And I think that even if you then advertise, that's one thing. But if it's cold advertising, it takes a hell of a long time to actually turn into leads. But if you're doing the advertising and then on top of that you've got the word of mouth, and you've come from sources that are talking about you, it definitely helps. There's no doubt about it. But it's not easy getting work further afield. I think if you persevere and you make sure that your last job is as good as it could be, and you finish it on good terms with your client, which is something that we'll come to later. That client relationship is so important. I think a lot of architects look at each project as one entity, and they think, well, I'll do that project to the best of my ability, I'll finish it, and then I'll move on. It's not that at all. I think that that's one of the biggest lessons I think I've learned through practice, is that you need to nurture that client, and you need to keep them close, and you need to keep them feeling good and safe about what you've done for them, so that all the way through they will continue to put your name out there and continue to talk about you 10, 15, 20 years after you've finished their building. So it's down to client relationships, which are very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the practice as is now, you say it's 20 years old. You changed your focus from commercial more to residential in recent times because of having a family and what have you. So is the practice now, how many team members are there? What's it kind of made up of? How does the practice look today?
We've built up a really good team of people that all have slightly different expertise. I think it's another thing that we do differently to a lot of architectural practices is when we get a new project in, we don't assign the project to one individual. So there isn't one person in the office that gets that project day one and deals with it through all the different work stages. What we have is different people with different levels of expertise in different areas of the entire architectural process, which means that a client on their project will get the best experience possible at every stage in the project. I have never believed that an architect can be good at everything. It's not possible. There are too many strings in the bow. The team that I've curated over the years has been a team that is very young, and I believe that bringing young people into the practice is fundamental to being able to keep up to date with the digital advancements that are happening around us. But as long as there are senior people there involved in every day of the projects to oversee and to check things, I think that you can pick up a very diverse, different way of doing things in different team. So I've got a team where I've got an associate who is Lewis. He's worked with me for a number of years now and is actually my co-founder in Pulse, which we'll talk about a bit later. But he's an associate, so he's a practicing architect, and he oversees the sort of technical delivery of projects. From a conceptual point of view, I'm that person. I do all the big thinking and the conceptual design work. And then I have the rest of the team are people that are involved in being able to turn my back of fag packet sketches and dreams and ideas for the particular site into more contextually driven answers that actually actually work. And then we've got people that are more involved in the planning and know the policy back to front, know how to construct design access statements and heritage statements that are really, really robust. And then we've got other team members that are far more involved in the technical delivery. So in other words, the building regulation drawings, the construction detailing, and then we've got people that are happy to go out to site and are really good at dealing with contractors and being able to look at the delivery end of it that needs to be right. And from our perspective, I think it's really important that concept stays true from start to finish. So what I sell the client at concept stage is what's delivered at the end of the day. And I'm very proud to be able to say that that is what has happened on all of our jobs. We've actually, in retrospect, been going back through projects to look at the concept drawing, the CGI, and then the delivery of what was actually built. And it's fantastic to be able to see it's there. What we've sold them, it's true to its word. So our team is a very varied team with different levels of expertise. And one thing that we have done, I would say, in the last 3 or 4 years, which has helped us immensely, is actually brought a quantity surveyor on board. So we actually have a quantity surveyor that's part of the team, that has lots of experience and has worked with me a number of years, but was always just a consultant. So we've brought him in-house in order to make sure that we have a much more robust handle on costings as we go forward. But then alongside our team of, there are 7 of us that are employed, but then alongside our team we have a group of collaborators, what I call collaborators. They're people that I trust. They're consultants, so they have their own small businesses and do their own things, but I use them on every project. So when a client comes to me, they know they're getting the full team. They don't have to go out and source other people. I found, especially on the Isle of Wight, I'm trying to provide a London service, but in a rural context, and it's very difficult. A lot of the time, local consultants are a bit sort of, if the waves are out and the surf's good today, they're going to go and do that instead of whatever it is that they've been asked to do. So it's a bit of a tomorrow will do attitude, and I can't deliver on my promises with consultants like that. So I've curated a team of people around the practice that I use on every job. And so I have geotechnical engineers, I have civil engineer, I have a structural engineer, I have a land surveyor, etc., etc. And I work with them on all of my jobs, and it makes for much better communication. They know exactly what it is that I'm wanting out of a project. They fully understand the quality of what I'm trying to deliver and what I expect. So that mutual trust works both ways, and it makes for a very solid team. So it's been very successful working like that.
Well, you mentioned as well earlier that did you say that you had an in-house planner as well, a planning professional working with you?
No, we don't.
You don't. Oh, okay.
No, we don't. So we do have planning consultants on the collaborating side of things.
Yes.
But in-house, I actually have somebody that works on all of our planning applications. So she's comes from an architecture and interiors background, but that's what she's been specializing in, and that's where her main experience lies. And it makes a huge difference when you're using somebody that knows the local planners quite well, knows how to interpret policy, how to put the story together. I think it does help. I think when an architect tries to spread themselves really thin and do a little bit of everything, I don't think you can do it all as well as you probably should be able to.
Do planning not planning constraints, that's the wrong phrase. Do planning timelines and policies and what have you, that's one of the biggest bugbears that practice directors say to me, is you can often wait ridiculously as long as 18 months for a planning application to go through. Do you have that timescale wait as well? Because you're obviously on an island. It's different if you're working in London or elsewhere around the country, but is there the number of staff within the local authority to help, or do you the same thing that everybody else says?
What I would say is that I think that when you deal with planning, your methodology for dealing with the planning system, I think, needs to be really carefully thought out and robust from a business perspective, from an architect's point of view. If you get to know the system really well, and then make sure that whatever you're putting in and however you deal with the planners is in line with that system, you should be all right. I think that, and I've developed a system like that here on the island, where I've invested a lot of time and energy into dealing with the local planners. They've changed over the years, and we've had different heads of planning and different, so it's never the same animal. But what I have found is that if you follow those systems that you've put in place, and do things in a particular way that you know will answer all their questions, you almost doing their job for them. So we as a practice tend to provide more information than we should, or needed to.
Yes.
Validating, putting enough information to just validate a planning application isn't enough, in my estimation. You need to do the planner's job for them. So if you can do as much of their job for them and as much of the thinking for them and give it to them on a platter, you're more likely to succeed. And then I've taken that that ethos, and I use that in every planning application I make, no matter where I work in the country. And it does bode for a much better timeline, overall timeline. And I think if you can demonstrate to planners that you listen, if you demonstrate to planners that you are happy to make concessions where you believe it to be suitable, it's a matter of you putting the right story forward. And being able to do as much of their job for them as possible, but also to be able to make concessions where you believe it to be the right place to make concessions, and almost allow them to believe that some of the decisions were theirs, even if they weren't. So it's all about marketing. It's about marketing and being able to sell an idea and a project to them and make them feel like they're part of it. And then I found that we have a much smoother ride through the entire system.
Yeah.
And luckily to date, I can say that we've only ever had to withdraw one application, and we've never been refused. So that's a fairly good, I think.
There's not many that can say that. Yeah.
No. But I've invested the time and I invest the energy in that. And I would say we're not the cheapest. We're not the cheapest architects out there. We are known on the island to be the most expensive. But I firmly believe that that's because we put the time in and the energy into making sure that ride is as smooth as possible. And it's important, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think the way that you've modelled the business in taking the junior staff up through and having the senior staff to oversee, that's a really good model, because as you alluded to earlier, using a youngster's mind with all of the technology that's out there nowadays and things like that, that's a really good way to build your business. Those that are fresh out of university, that have got that experience that perhaps you won't see in everyday practice, but they can bring to the table, is a really good way of working.
Yeah, it's definitely. I know. I mean, some clients, they kind of look at you, when they meet the team and they see, oh gosh, they're all a very young group of people. I see that as a positive. Yeah. A lot of clients don't necessarily at the initially, because they think that if everybody has got grey hair and looks a bit long in the tooth, then obviously they know what they're doing. It isn't really the case anymore. Yes, I mean, when you've been in the business for a long time, you bring experience and knowledge that you can't have as a youngster. But what I think is that those that just stick their head in the sand and hope that business can continue like it currently, or like it did, I wouldn't say currently is, but did, are in for a huge shock. And I think that the only way to actually circumnavigate that is by bringing in young minds, because their minds do work differently. There's no doubt about it. Yes, we can learn new things, and yes, when you're at the tail end of your career, I suppose, like I am, yes, I can learn new things. Yes, technology can be a bit of a challenge at times, as we discovered at the beginning of this call. But we need to know what we're good at, and where we're not good at it, find somebody that can fill that gap. And I think that using the young, I think, is the way forward in that. I really do. Because the face of practice is changing completely.
So, interesting enough to pick up on, you use the phrase then, as you reach the tail end of your career. That's not really true, because obviously we're going to talk about Pulse now. which is obviously so you're starting again to a degree, aren't you? With the tail end of your career that's actually starting from scratch and off you go again. So. Well, look, we've talked about the practice and you as an individual, and you've walked all over the world. Tell us all about Pulse and what is Pulse, and you're a co-founder, co-director of Pulse, aren't you? So there's two of you, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I think I think by saying I'm coming to the end of my career, I hope to be in it for a lot longer. I'm not bailing out of architecture.
No.
But what I have found is that with 30 years in practice, it's the same pain points that show their face and that I hear people talk about over and over and over again. And it's so frustrating because we as architects generally are so busy producing buildings and designing and doing all the things that we want to be doing that we don't look up and look around us. We just keep going. And we don't stop and think, okay, well, how do I fix that problem? Or how do I eradicate that pain point? Because it takes so much time and energy to step back and do all of that I think as architects, we all just tend to keep going because that's safest, just keep going. But from my perspective, having done this for over 30 years, it's got to the point where we can't keep going on like this. The architectural industry is broken. It is full of turmoil. We all see it on a day-to-day basis. Anybody that looks on the news, on LinkedIn, on wherever, they can see it everywhere. And it's all everybody's talking about. And I think it's presented in a real doom and gloom way, which it isn't. I don't think it should be, because where there are problems, there are opportunities. So about a year ago, Lewis and I, who's my associate here, we were talking about it for probably about 2 years before that, all these problems that come up over and over again. And we tend to sort of solve it with, let's try that little bit of software. That'll help us with fees, or it'll help us with timekeeping, or it'll help us. But there's nothing out there to really help the architect in the whole process and what we go through. And we thought, why don't we try and do something? Why don't we look at these pain points, try and define them, and make sure that we're on the right track, and let's see if we can do something about it. And that's when a year ago we really sat down. It wasn't just a passing coffee and a chat and a moan. It was let's do something about it. Last year, Easter time, I think it was about Easter time last year, Lewis started to play around with digital platforms and apps and whatever to try and build a prototype of what we were trying to do. We had no idea what it was going to be called. We couldn't decide on a name. We couldn't, but we knew the process that we had to try and streamline. And I suppose also because the digital advancements with AI had moved on to a point where we could actually now try and build something ourselves. So we looked at it. He went away and he built a very basic prototype with a slight look to it, and we knew what problem areas we were trying to solve. And we thought, right, well, now what do we do with this? I actually went to a university reunion at Easter, and went with this idea in my head and this sort of knowing how this prototype might work, and used my network, which everybody talks about a network and how important a network is. I went and used my old school network and spoke to loads of people openly about it. And what did they think? How should I move it forward? I'm not in the tech space. I don't have any idea about building software. Help, sort of thing. And people came out of the woodwork with lots of interesting things to add to the story. And have you thought about that? And have you, and with putting all of that together, I came back to the office with a completely renewed vision and looking at and sort of excitement about it. And we then took that to one of the people in my network who works as a software developer, but was happy to mentor us and helped us discuss everything that we were wanting to build, and then put us in touch with somebody that would actually run what they call a design sprint. And that is where they look at not just the development of a piece of software for you, but look at the viability of it as a business. Would clients and architects actually be interested in buying something like this piece of software we were talking about? So we had a week-long design sprint where we were literally locked in a room for a week. We did everything like this remotely, and we had a team of coordinators that were business consultants. We had a team of software developers. So the team of software developers were based in India. The team of business consultants were based in South Africa. There was us, Lewis and I, and then I picked 3 architects from my network and 3 clients, past clients of ours, to participate in it. And we spent a week locked in a room, basically discussing the whole thing. And it was fantastic. I mean, we came up with a pivot, a complete pivot on what we were building. So we had started to build a piece of software, or the idea of a piece of software that was client-facing. So one of the biggest pain points we found is that clients don't understand the process of architecture. We use language they don't necessarily understand. We use work stages they don't understand. And the miscommunication between clients and architects is a real problem. So we had started with, what's this piece of software going to be? And we thought, well, it's a dual dashboard, the clients on one side and the architects on the other. And both can see their project in real time and can actually help to take away any confusion or any miscommunications that happen on the project, because that information is there in real time. But what we found was that the clients loved this idea. It was fantastic. It was everything that the clients were wanting. But actually, who was going to buy the software? Well, it's actually the architects, because the architects needed to run their project through. So we had a complete pivot. And we said, okay, right, so now it's more about the architect, but the client can see into it, has a window into what the architect can see. So the software has evolved. We're now working with the same developers in India. We are about 2.5 months, I would say, away from releasing MVP, which is the minimum viable product, to have it beta tested by users. So just to explain to you the actual software and the pain points it's going to sort of address. So we've got these dual dashboards. If we start with the architect on the architect side, the architect can, as a practice director, can have an overview of all their projects. So the idea is that you will work in the piece of software. You would come into the office, you would log into this piece of software. It's called Pulse. You'll log into Pulse, and it will have on that dashboard, as a director, there are, just 5 projects in the office. I can see that 3 of them, there are high risks, so it'll highlight risks. It's an AI is underpinning the whole piece of software. It'll highlight risk areas. It might highlight some scope creep on something. It'll highlight, so all those pain points that we tend to hope we'll get to, but are too scared to sort of look at, will literally be brought right to the front through the AI that runs in the background of the project.
The AI piece, is that part of? Is that exclusive to the Pulse?
Yes.
That's something you've created separately.
Yes. So the problem with AI at the moment is, it's open AI and it's out there, and and it hallucinates and does all sorts of different things. In developing a piece of software for architects, for professionals to use, it needs to be secure. And in order to do that, we need to have our own AI that works in the background, that's ring-fenced to projects and ring-fenced to the companies that would be buying the software. So it doesn't just go out there and explore the whole internet to find you answers. That's not the point of it. It's to help you streamline and structure the project in the background and help you save time, basically. We found that that architectural practices on average waste 40% of billable time on admin. And that's pure admin where you are looking for documentation because one person in the team has filed it in the wrong place. Looking for documentation that's scattered across numerous platforms because a client might have said one thing on email, they might have said another thing on a telephone, and then the contractor said something else by letter or by email or on site verbally. So this scattered communication across it, if it all runs through one portal and one dashboard, the AI at the background can pick all those things up. So even from a PI perspective, professional indemnity insurance, going back and looking for information where something possibly has gone wrong, all of a sudden becomes really easy. You literally just ask the AI in the system to find you everything on a particular subject inside of that project, and it'll bring it all up for you. So it starts to become a helpful tool. It's a tool that will help you organize your entire process, but also help you stay on top of your risks because it'll flag them straight away as being risks. So it takes everything and puts it in one place. So all your project communications, your drawings, your approvals, your documents, your emails, everything gets put into one place, and then it's all, I suppose, controlled in a methodical way by the AI that sits in the background of it. It'll trace every decision.
It sounds as though you are. It sounds as though you are there, doesn't it, already? But you mentioned you're still pre-launch, aren't you? As we know, but you're still 3 or 4 months away. You say from it being completely as you want it.
I'd say about 2.5 months. We were hoping to be ready for the 23rd of March. We've had a few hiccups on it. These things never go perfectly. So no, we hope that by the end of March we'll have a version of it that we can start beta testing. We've got a wait list, so we've put up a wait list on a landing page, where people can go and have a look and download and have a quick squiz at what's going on, what the dashboards consist of. But at the end of the day, we need to have a minimum product that we can get out to have it beta tested, because the first tranche of everything is the testing. So we will go back to that wait list. So people that are on the wait list will then be able to download the software when it's ready, and we will give them an opportunity to use it for a month or so that they can there'll be a feedback loop on it, so that we will be able to work with our software developers to iron out any sort of bumps that are happening, but also with a view to then releasing it after the beta testing is completed. And then the idea is that there'll be a version 1 and a version 2 after that, to complete it out. I think if we all sit back and look at how complex the process is that an architect goes through from start to finish on a project, and you think of all the things that go right and all the things that go wrong in that process, we're trying to we are building a piece of software that can encapsulate all of that, and smooth out the entire process. And the idea is to try and give architects back that 40% of time to do with what they will. You can grow your practice, you can hire more staff, you can take more time off. Lots of different things that you can then do with that extra time, or make more money, which is something I think all architects want to do. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, so, you've it's going to be huge. It's something, as you say, you and Lewis have found something that didn't exist beforehand. No. And everything you've mentioned, it will, I'm sure, be of huge advantage to those that use it. It's now a case. I know I'm starting to put it and promote it in the Architecture Vogue magazine for you a couple of months in advance. But then, of course, as we get near launch time, we can really shout from the rooftops and hopefully, get as many people to use it. And beta test. And are you limiting the beta testing to a certain amount of people? I'd imagine.
Yes, we will.
What do you want to do with that?
I think in the early stages, it's better to have some sort of control on limited numbers so that we can have a proper process to go through to make sure that it is as refined as we can get it. I mean, we're starting off with practices, so architectural practices that are sort of around about 20 staff and less. We're starting off there. Just because the whole process becomes something else when you get into the bigger practices. Not to say that isn't coming, so the enterprise version will come. So we're going to start off with just 2 packages. One is a very light package that a one-man band could potentially use, and then up to sort of 20 staff. You would pay per seat on a subscription basis, we'll test it out on a few to start with a view to then rolling it out. I've actually got some fantastic opportunities to talk at. There are different RIBA chapters throughout the country. So the idea is now to take a presentation. I've done one in Zimbabwe already, which was hugely successful. And they all signed up on the wait list, which I didn't expect. You usually expect maybe half to sign up. They all signed up. And so the idea is to go and actually talk, take a presentation and go and talk to local members in different regions in England, and just get the word out there. I think it's important that architects know that somebody is actually from within the industry is actually creating something that will be beneficial and will change the way that architects work for the better. There's no doubt about that. And nobody's done it before. We can't work out why or why not. So we feel we're onto something monumental for the industry. So we're very, very excited about it. Hopefully your listeners will find it an exciting opportunity to potentially, if they want to test it out, to sign up and have a look.
So remind everybody, obviously I've posted just recently, and I will be again in the next few days or weeks or so as we move forward. It's the website for people to go to is, what was it again? Sorry.
It's pulsecentric.com. On the end of, I think, most of our articles that you've published, it's in there.
Yes.
So if you just go online and type in pulsecentric.com, a landing page will come up where you can fill in all your details and the size of the practice and what practice you're working for, and then it gives you a few dashboards. So it'll talk about, I think there's 6 dashboards, the basic features that you would find on the piece of software. Gives you a really good idea of how we're planning on doing it. So it's there, and I mean, if they stay in touch with what we're doing on Architecture Vogue that you're very kindly helping us with, they'll see more and more detail as time goes by as to what the software will be able to do, which I think is great.
Well, I can see there's clearly an interest building, because I can see from the analytics of the post that I've done for you so far. It's like everything. When you start, people are not wary, but they want to know what it is, of course. Sure. And the more posts that we do, exactly. It's something brand new, and brand new things people are obviously wary of, aren't they? But, it's starting to gain traction. It's gaining exposure, and if I can do all I can to, raise the profile right across the UK and beyond, then yes, that's brilliant. And things like this as well. Now you've been able to talk to the audience as well, which this podcast will go live in the coming days, early next week probably now. Again, it's another means to help the audience to see who you are, the person behind Pulse, and that you're a practicing architect yourself, so you've been there and done that for over 3 decades, as you say, and all credit to you for everything you've done as an architect all around the world, the projects you've been involved in, coupled with where you are today, still running a successful business and now doing this as well. So I think you're very far from the tail end of your career. I think you're just starting again. 18 right. Again.
I think you're right. You're right. They do say that we're all going to be living for longer now, so maybe I'll be all right. I don't know. But certainly, I think if all the pain points are taken out of my day-to-day running of a practice, I think I'd enjoy it so much more. And I think that it would, by changing that, and it would the satisfaction I think that a lot of people don't have from architecture, I think you'd see coming back. being able to spend more time designing than fighting and backwards and forwards and communication and chaos and all the rest of it. If that can all calm down and be pushed to one side and something else is doing it for you, it's still happening and it's still being controlled, but it's being done without us having to worry and stress all the time. That risk element, I think, if you can take all of that out of architecture, I think it would be a much better profession for us all. And certainly then it opens up doors to doing things like I'm busy doing now with Pulse. I think, to be able to do different things and is really important. So yes, no, it's good.
Well, I think the unique selling point, as they say, the USP is the regaining, however you wish to spend it, 40% of your time, isn't it? Which is huge.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, that's if you think about it like that, if most practices are wasting 40% of unbillable time, that's more than your profit. That's more than your profit. And then when you look at the failing sort of profession, and you say, well, no wonder everybody's in the state that they're in at the moment in the profession. And if that can be mopped up and used, then it makes sense. So no, I think it's definitely the right way forward. And I think with the digital age,
I think you're definitely onto something.
Yeah, the digital age that we're all living in now. I mean, that's the other sort of side of it. With AI and it's all moving so quickly. We've kind of sort of thought to ourselves, well, are we moving fast enough? We want to be the first to deliver this. We want to be the first to get this out there to market. But even if somebody was to come in now and start doing it, it is so complex, the process for us to get this thing to work, this piece of software to work for us, and to be secure and to do all the things that we need to do in that process and have a professional outcome that is right and works. I don't think there'll be anybody else that can do it. So I think we're in a strong position, and I just want to get it out there. I just want to get it to people so that they can start using it and start improving their day-to-day work life, and bring some of that joy back to architecture. The bit that we all love.
Well, like I say, the beta testing will be end of March, so 6 weeks away or so, and I think, as you mentioned with AI as well, constantly evolving. Once you've built it, it's live and it's being used by so many people around the country. It will naturally grow itself because AI will find more content for it, and it will just become an evolving beast, won't it? Basically.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with
naturally.
I mean, with the software, what's so fantastic about it is that the more you feed into it, the more it will learn about your practice. So over time, the idea is that if your practice, if every staff member in your practice is on it, and everybody works through it on a day-to-day basis, and the documentation that you feed into it, so your brief that a PDF of your brief gets fed into it, your fee proposal that you've done gets fed into it, your timelines get fed into it, all that information gets fed into it, and then the process is everybody tweaks things slightly. Practices like to work slightly differently and like to do things a little bit different. So all those tweaks can be accommodated within it. But the more you feed into it, over time, the AI that's sitting in the background is learning from all of that stuff. And it knows that all of a sudden, if for instance, you get a new staff member is onboarded, it's really much easier now to do because it's all on this dashboard. It's all in one place. Documents are all securely formed. If they then decide, well, I need to find a piece of documentation. I need to, whatever it happens to be, it's really easy to do. But no matter who is in that process, they're all talking to one piece of information and one place for it. But the AI that then is in the background is helping them to sort everything and find everything. So if a new staff member now is submitting a planning application, for instance, and they put all the documentation into the portal, they're ready to submit it, but the portal knows, the AI in the background knows they haven't done X, Y, and Z, or it hasn't been checked by so-and-so before it goes, or it hasn't gone through the processes that it's learnt is supposed to happen every time that something goes to planning. It'll flag it up as a risk. And it'll automatically go to their team leader, to their team leader to say, this is a risk, you haven't done X, don't submit it. So nothing should fall through the cracks. Like, unfortunately, when you have big teams of people working on projects, lots of things slip through the cracks. So that AI in the background then becomes almost like a helping hand that sort of nudges everybody in the right direction and keeps you controlled and keeps the processes in line. So no, I think from that perspective, AI is going to be the fundamental thing behind it that drives it forward.
Yeah.
And if it can keep learning, it'll simplify things for the practice going forward. I think the other thing, just to bring
people have varying views, don't they, on AI within architecture and design. But you are a shining example of using it for benefit to others. You know, lots of people are saying it's for design purposes and it's going to take away people's jobs and what have you. But you are using it absolutely to the advantage of others.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of architects, when you talk to them, they're quite frightened by AI. They seem to think that it's literally to help you draft a piece of written content, or it's to help you do a CGI, or it's to give you 10 different versions of a material on the outside of a building. Yes, it can do that, and that's great. Yeah. But that's not to us. That's not the crux of how can we use this incredible thing to help us as a tool to improve all aspects of what we do, rather than just snippets here and there. So it's a fundamental underpinning of everything we do with this help. That's what it boils down to. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Hats off to you for everything that you've done in your career to date, and then your new career, if you will, moving forward. So it's I will continue to do all I can to raise the profile of Pulse. And again, for anybody, it's pulsecentric.com. So and of course you can go to architecturevogue.com and see the latest articles that I featured for Lindsay as well. And more that will come on the lead up to the beta testing coming up in the next month or so.
Brilliant.
But no, Lindsay, it's look, thank you for coming on and for talking to the audience, and just inspiring really, because what you've done so far to date, and it's just the start of your journey now, rather than coming to an end, I should say. So all credit to you, and very well done.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for including us, Nick, and for all your help in the process. It's really it's been fantastic. You've been a great champion for us.
A real pleasure. Thank you, Lindsay, very much. All the best.
Okay, thanks a lot,